In the wheel of time, birth, growth, maturity, and death are equal faces of a circle. Dying well sets the stage for being born well. Preparing for death is also preparing for birth. Now, in a consciousness paradigm where consciousness continuums, it's a belief, then in dying well, one is preparing to be born well. But even outside of that belief system, there is no minute of time that is more or less valuable to live well than any other minute. We all have a certain amount of time, and many cultures today are oriented towards the teenage. They start around 18 is when you're supposed to be enjoying yourself, and peak around 40 is kind of the window of time that is elevated within a capitalist culture where, by defining oneself as reference to capital, the highest earning years, you want the 18-year-olds because that's when they're forming attachments to products and they can buy the most going forward. And you want the 30-year-olds because they're making the most money, the 40-year-olds because they're making the most money. And then after that, when someone retires, they probably don't have as much disposable income, so you're not interested in that. So through the lens of capital, plus if you're hiring an employee through the lens of capital, you maybe want someone 25 so that your 5 years of training can lead to more return on money. But that's just through the lens of capital. Many cultures throughout history have appreciated the fact that the older a person is, the more perspective they have, the more maturity they are capable of emotionally. In a healthy paradigm, every part of the circle is important. So let's look at the maturing years, the dying well years. And what do you want? What do I want? To live and die well. Well, let's start with the status quo, because to evolve or to provide medicine to the status quo, to the wound, one has to know what it is. I'm making this video in Marin County, California, in America. And a majority of the elderly people around me are dying in relative aloneness. Many of the building structures do not allow pets, for example. Many of the hospitals in which people go to die do not allow dogs and pets. Visiting hours between loved ones can be restricted. It can cost $100,000 to $300,000 a year to die in relative isolation with top-of-the-line medical care, but no one actually caring about the felt experience of the human being that is dying. In American culture, older people are an expense to be humanely managed. What can we do with these people? We're obviously too busy doing important things like doing jobs many of us don't like so that we can make more money in our useful years, right? And so what do we do with these older people? It's not a very nice feeling. Many Americans apologize for being old. You wouldn't be interested in me, I'm old, is one viewpoint for many Americans. Now, this is where other cultures, where cultural diversity is incredibly refreshing, because you will find the opposite to be true if one goes to Thailand. And I would say that of the default cultures, to grow old as an American in Thailand or perhaps the Philippines, both cultures where the elderly have status that is at least equal and sometimes higher than the younger generations. The ideal is equal. A culture that is sophisticated enough to understand and reap the benefits of every age category. You know, an infant, a child, brings a tremendous wonder and innocence. An elderly person is also often, in a healthy culture, in that state of innocence, in a more childlike state, but has the life skills to take care of children. Often one of the most rewarding things for an older person is to shepherd the innocence of a child. It's a beautiful, it's a honoring and honored experience to care for new life at the end of a long life. And so a good base point, a good starting point might be, for example, to move to Thailand. In fact, if Medicina and a more conscious and beautiful way of dying was not a project for me at this time, I would be planning on retiring in Thailand, where it takes 40% less money to have a 300% higher quality of life in a default culture where there is respect for feelings, where there is a focus on rapport and good energy. Thailand is often known as the land of smiles, where the food is the best in the world, where it's warm and beautiful. I would be looking at retiring in Thailand, in a culture that respects and cares for its elderly, that has a great tradition of balance, where the temples are magnificent, where reflection and contemplation is honored, where you can get a massage on the beach for $10 an hour by some of the nicest people in the world. It's not a bad default, and for some of you that could be a better choice, and it's certainly a choice worth considering. So my question is that the best there is? What could I create that I don't necessarily have in Thailand? Well, one of the biggest things is language. Nobody speaks English in Thailand. It's one issue. Certainly for people under the age of 50, it's very difficult to get visas. A sense of community is difficult without language. And I haven't seen a community context that would be ideal in a group setting in Thailand. It may be there, but Medicina, the Costa Rican community that I'm forming as we speak, has possibilities, probabilities, eases that go beyond what I can create in Thailand. And so let's look at what good dying looks like. And, I want to create something that I would choose personally over any other place that I know. And so I'm going to talk about that because you may resonate. You may say, yeah, I feel the same way. I want that too. And that's kind of my approach is let's do something that is the best I can possibly imagine. The place that I want to die and die well. And trust that among the 7 or so billion people out there, that there are other people that are going to connect to that same thing. And for those that diverge, meaning I want this and not that, this could be a starting point. So this video is an exploration of some of the nuances, some of the ingredients in a recipe for a great end of life and a beautiful death. So there's a couple of things that I want. One of the things that I want is return on investment. I want a feeling of abundance. And I don't have that in California. I think I would need probably $5 million US in order to begin to feel that certainty that no matter what happened with all the high price and medical care, et cetera, that, I could go into the hospital and after a $200,000 stay in the hospital for 1 month, come out and, be able to afford all of that month and, go back and hire the people to help me with things. But there's still the gap in community, the gap in intimacy. It doesn't feel abundant. It doesn't feel, there isn't a sense of luxury, of having enough. Taxes, $1,000 a month. Property taxes, $1,500 a month. Property taxes. There's a feeling of tightness I have, and I want a feeling of abundance. So I want to create a place where my fixed expenses are relatively low for a very high quality lifestyle. So for me, $1,500, $1,700 a month is a luxurious amount. It's also an amount that I'm aware of, that Social Security, which is not adequate in most cases to provide a very luxurious quality of life for Americans. It is adequate to provide a much more luxurious quality of life, say in Thailand or in Costa Rica. So let's look first at why Costa Rica. Why have I picked Costa Rica? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, there's a tremendous ease of going back and forth, meaning it's 2 or 3 times easier to get to Costa Rica than it is to get to some of my favorite islands in Thailand from the US back and forth. So that's one thing. The second thing is you can legally own land in Costa Rica as an American. And there are some workarounds like 30-year leases, et cetera, but you cannot legally own land in Thailand as an American. And so that's another thing. There's no doubt that the food is better, but I would say that it's an easier cultural adaptation. Food is better in Thailand, but it's good food. I really enjoyed eating at some of the best places in Costa Rica. It's terrifically healthy food. Costa Rica has more biodiversity than Thailand, in fact, than almost any place on earth. So there's definite benefits there. The amount and number of waterfalls I experience being higher in Costa Rica. I like waterfalls. Natural hot springs I really enjoy. Higher in Costa Rica than in Thailand. Land is less expensive in Costa Rica than it is in Thailand. And so certain other costs are higher, but the actual land costs are less expensive in Costa Rica. So those are kind of a few of the considerations. You can get good health care in Costa Rica. You can get good health care in Thailand. You can get good health care in the U.S., but it's dramatically less expensive in Costa Rica. So, those are some reasons for the location. I like swimming in warm ocean water. I can do that in Costa Rica. It's nice to have a country that doesn't have a standing army. That's kind of nice to know that that Costa Rica is a place that is not investing its tax dollars into global militarization, so no standing army. I appreciate that. I also like the fact that 97% of Costa Rican electricity is renewably generated. I like the air quality. It's fantastic. Being in a warm climate, wonderful. It's incredibly beautiful. So there's a lot to say for Costa Rica. Now, the other thing that as a designer, as a cultural designer, as an ecological designer, there is a tremendous amount of hostility in the form of red tape, bureaucracy, and control in the U.S. that stultifies rapid iteration of ecological design. And there may be the impulse for that in most governments in the world, but Costa Rica is not as regulated. A lot of it is, it's just too much bother to drive around and see what everyone's doing. And so the reality is it's not only a more cost-effective place from a place of, hiring employees, et cetera, to do things, but your government isn't getting in the way of intelligent design, slowing it down, adding permits. No, we don't let anyone do that. For example, in Marin County, if I want to collect rainwater or river water or whatever and run it through a reverse osmosis and provide my own water, it's illegal. If I want to use a composting toilet to provide forest fertilizer, that's illegal. If I want to be off the grid on solar, that's illegal in Marin County. You have to have a water hookup. You have to have a sewer hookup. You have to have all these things that add more than $150,000 to the cost just of utility hookups. That doesn't feel abundant. It doesn't feel free. I don't like it at all. Nor do I like the homelessness that it generates. Because when you have a monopoly on shelter and you create 1,000 different codes, it is illegal in Marin County to build a home that costs less than $650,000 in order to prepare for your $1,500 a month tax bill. It's illegal to build low-cost homes. It's illegal to build tiny homes. It's illegal to erect a teepee and camp on your own land. This is not a free culture. And, as one becomes older and is not generating, $10,000, $20,000 a month to be able to afford all of these regulations, it feels tremendously liberating to have actual control over the cost of one's lifestyle. So that's some of the things pointing towards Costa Rica that I'm interested in. Now, I had to get permission from my landlord to have one little dog. I might not be allowed another dog. The house is not very dog friendly. And if I want to leave my dog at home to go out to an appointment where dogs are not welcome, a very common thing in the US, my dog is not happy and I'm not happy. So I want the ability to easily be connected with dogs as a starting point. Other animals, all the better. My dog increases my quality of life by 30%. That's a big deal. And it's a very low cost. It's a big deal. It's a low cost. Waking up every morning with my dog cuddling me. He's either tucked in my chest or curled up on my back. To wake up and feel, here's another being whose favorite place to be in the world is tucked up next to me. That feeling to wake up to, 30% increase in quality of life. Playfulness, rolling around in the floor, watching playfulness, having an animal to talk to go and do exercise with. Incredible uplift, increase in quality of life. It's not accommodated. It's not valued in most of American culture. I have to adapt to it, right? So I want a place where I can have 3 dogs, where the care is shared with other people, where they are welcome everywhere, where everyone can share the enjoyment of the dogs, where it's not about owning the dogs, it's about enjoying the dogs. A place that is dog friendly. I want that. And it's not going to happen in my neighborhood, right? I can own $1 million home, but I can't have that in my neighborhood, and I want it. So being able to share all of that with other people, to have, in a sense, community dogs, community animals that we all know, we all enjoy, where we can bond to varying degrees, but also if we need to go on a trip or an expedition or do something, that the care does not rest on one person. Because I hate putting a dog in a kennel. It's a horrible place, right? Now, you can buy private homes in California to take care of your dogs for all of $70 a night, right? Then again, if you're not earning capital, paying $70 a night for a human being to take care of your dog, when in a community setting everyone would love to do that, it's not very nice. It doesn't feel expansive. It feels like, this wonderful thing you have to pay someone just to be friends with this wonderful cuddle buddy. So that's what I want. Now, sitting and watching TV alone and letting the news media dope you up on dopamine by the latest scandal and stuff, it's not a very high quality of life. Being relegated as a burden is not an enjoyable experience. I want the opportunity to volunteer. I want the opportunity to make a difference. And I don't want to be treated as a criminal. Well, we have to go get a police report, go get a background check, go do this, go do that. And then you can show up, drive here at this time and do these, fill out these envelopes and be a cog in a machine. I want to give in a way that is meaningful to me. I want to walk to my giving. I want to know the people that I'm working with and helping. And I want to make a difference. And I want it tailored to my gifts and abilities. And so Happiness Data, a nonprofit among several other nonprofits, Happiness Data is a project that I created, a US-based nonprofit, so that I can donate money and donate my time and not have to pay taxes for my community and global contributions. If I want to write a book, for example, the last project I did was, write a book on homelessness in the fifth wealthiest county in the US and give the book away to government officials and the homeless. I didn't want to have to pay 30% taxes for doing a useful project. And so I want a nonprofit structure around me that anytime I want to do good, be useful for my community, that I don't have to pay taxes on that money. And so Happiness Data is the umbrella organization that does that for me. And so it lowers my taxes on all of those contributions, but it also gives me the ability to design my impact. If I wanted to give to another nonprofit, none of them would help me write that book, right? So a self-designed form of charitable giving is something that I want. And so that's something that I can make available to you. You can put money into Happiness Data and then write checks out of that to pay for community service, to pay for projects that you care about, so that you're not paying taxes on good deeds. So that's something that I want and something that I've created for myself. And the other thing that I want, and this is also tying in with my nonprofit, I'm putting $150,000 a year into my nonprofits and investing that money within the nonprofits in sustainable companies such as Tesla, in pioneering companies such as the Ethereum blockchain that empower people to transcend high inflation monetary policy, that help people in third world countries have a bank when the traditional monetary system leaves them out. So there's a couple of things that I'm looking for. I don't like raising money. Do you enjoy it, going around asking people that don't want to be asked to give money? I don't. But how am I going to keep doing good work in older age after I've retired? Meaning when I'm not doing most of what I'm doing to make money. Well, I want a nonprofit that has more money through investments every year that grows. And then I can invest the profits into good deeds so that I never have to ask anyone for money for the rest of my life. I want that. And I think that's also a fun thing that you could do, right? I mean, if you want to put $5,000 into the Happiness Data Investment Fund, and every year you want to spend $1,000, and the investment fund goes up 20% on average, that's been my returns at least, on average, you just spend the profit on good deeds, and the gift keeps giving, right? And so it's a double benefit. First of all, picking things that benefit the world, giving good companies that are doing good things the funding they need, number one. I put all my money into Tesla, for example, in 2017, when the shorts on Wall Street were trying to collapse the company. That company needed belief, needed fuel. Well, now it's the most valuable car company in the world. And that money has gone up 1,000%. But that wasn't the driving focus. It's like, I want to put money into companies that are doing important things that need money. So then you get that societal benefit. Less money is going into government, which overall I think is a good thing. I don't like the bloated nature of the US government, and I don't like how much of that money is spent. But I do like how Tesla is spending their money. I do like how Ethereum is benefiting large constituents around the world in various ways and making monetary policy a little bit more honest. I like that. I like helping Kathy Woods with her pioneering technologies, right? So these are things that have a good cause, but also if they're intelligent, they go up in value over time, right? And so that's been the case. And that generates profits to then do good work, right? So I like that model. And it's available for you as well. I can help you set up your own nonprofit, or you can use happiness data as kind of a way to put money in and then fund things that you care about. So I want that. I want to be with people that are thinking like that, right? Now, I may have lost 50% of people around that focus on nonprofit, but that's okay, right? The maximum size that I want this community to get to is 175 people, maximum, right? And 70 to, starting at around 70 people, that's plenty. I want to know the people, which means I want to have intimate daily interactions with a smaller group of people rather than thousands of interactions with strangers I'm never going to see again. So, and I want to be with people that enjoy. How can we help? What can we do, right? And if you do too, because I think that's a neat group of people, you got it, right? Starting with me. I'm interested in that. It's one of the most exciting arenas. I'm more interested in my nonprofit than I am in my business because I think it can have more positive impact, and that makes it a more intelligent organization. So the business I'm interested in because it can fund the nonprofit and fund communities like this and fund these ideas and fund these videos. I'm interested, but it's the nonprofit projects that I'm particularly interested in. In the question, how to have the most positive impact for the least amount of investment. If you can cure cataracts for someone for $6 and they can see more clearly for the rest of their life, well, that sounds good. But can you also do something that helps the rest of their life be worth seeing? So they're not just seeing the atrocity of mediocrity and poverty and cruelty more clearly for the rest of their life. So that's making life worth living and then becoming more alive to living it. That's an exciting proposition. It inspires me to do more, and it's exciting to see other people, growing. So that's something I want for myself. And I want to be around people who get it, where it's not like we're weird because you care about other people, right? I want to be around people who get it, where you can say, well, I was able to turn $10 into 300 smiles last week. Oh, how did you do that? Well, Well, here, I'll do that too. Let's put $10 into that recipe. Is that a replicable event? And then publish that data, happiness data, how to create more sustainable well-being for more people with less energy. That's called intelligence. That's called sustainability, right? Because if you spend more energy in a business paradigm, if you buy something for $300 and sell it for $100, you go bankrupt. If you make yourself depressed trying to make one person happy for a minute, it's unsustainable. You're depressed all day and you made someone happy for a minute, right? That's backwards. But if you can make yourself happy sustainably while making other people happy, that's kind of the holy grail of a rich and meaningful and empathic life. And so I'm interested in that, how to do it. No one teaches us in school, in high school, in college, in work. It's not the focus. The promise, the lie is make a lot of money and then you'll be successful and that's what you should do. That's only a very tiny sliver of the truth. So how do you do all these other things, right? And I want to be learning with other people and thinking about that. I also want to disseminate recipes. In other words, if we figure out an incredible way to make a lot of people happy with $5 or a lot of people happy in 1 hour, I want everyone to have access to that recipe. It's like if you can figure out the exact recipe to make the best pancake you've ever had in your life, and there's all these people around the world spending twice the money, 3 times the money, making bad pancakes. All they need is the recipe. And then the same amount of time, the same amount of money, the same amount of energy creates the best pancake. In the information age, it is free to make the best pancake recipe available for everyone. It doesn't take any more time, but the enjoyment is 2 or 3 times higher. It's not like, there's so many crappy pancakes. You go to this hotel, and nobody knows how to make a pancake? Nobody can find the real maple syrup? So that's the idea. That's the paradigm. Or if you can do this and this, and your marriage goes up in value 30%. Your sexual vitality increases 28%, right? By doing this one thing. What is it, right? How does it work? For how many people? Does it work for everyone? Does it work for women? Does it work for men? Does it work for 18-year-olds? Does it work for 73-year-olds? What's the probability field around this recipe? What's the best recipe? And how to get it out to the most people so that global well-being goes up per unit of energy invested. That's intelligence. That's evolution. That's fun. I want to be a part of it. I want to be around people that want to be a part of it. So that's what this video is about. Is that you? I don't know. But if it is, that's exciting. You're someone I'd want to talk to about that. If you want to spend 2.5 hours exploring and reminiscing about the different projects we've done and show me this and you did this and I want to know. So that kind of leads me back to that point I made about kind of the maximum number of people being maybe 175. This is Dunbars Law. Apes split up in packs as chimpanzees or apes or whatever, they reach a certain size, and then they go off and be part of separate groups. And it's a biological function. The brain cannot intimately know more than about 150 people. If you want to know the birthdays, the allergies, the sexual preferences, the best time of the week for someone, the way they handle their menstrual cycle, the favorite dish they like to eat, what restaurant is their favorite restaurant, that their niece's birthday is here, that they love paintings, that the best memory of their life is this. If you want to know all those details about people so as to flow and dance in a great space together, you can't spend time with a lot of people. It's too much information for too many people. So the answer is go back to nature. Respect the biology. If you look at tribes, naturally, they will divide at roughly that point. If you look at really healthy cultures and companies, Gore-Tex is a good example. Gore-Tex was a family business. It's waterproof clothing, used in the military, etc. They loved the vibe they got together. But when they got too big, they lost the vibe. So they split into divisions of less than 300 people so they could keep the vibe within the division. I want that vibe. I want it with you. I want it with my partner. I want it with everyone in the community. So that means limiting size to what the brain can digest. Too many people, one ear in, one ear out, I forget. Just enough people, and it's like, oh yes, you told me that. Now you're doing this. I remember. I know you. I want to be known, and I want to know you. So keep it to a maximum size. It works. You need less rules and regulations when everyone understands each other. You're dealing with 10,000 people, most of whom you barely know. You need rules and regulations to govern expectations and what do you do because nobody really understands each other. 70 people? Less so. And I want to take the time to actually consciously know and be known. I'm taking time to be known here. You may know me more than you know anyone on your street after this video. It's quite an accomplishment if you actually value seeing and being seen. If you value love, which requires intimacy, you cannot love someone you do not understand. You cannot understand someone you don't see clearly. You cannot see someone clearly without time. And you can only spend so much time with so many people. I want to spend time regularly with a small group of people aligned with these values so that I don't forget your birthday. So that I don't forget that you're one of those people that doesn't care about birthdays versus one of the people where that's the most important day of the year to you. I want to remember what your favorite flavor of birthday cake is. I want to know the accomplishments you want to be reminded of on your birthday. And that means small is beautiful. So that's what I want. That's what this is. Maximum size. And, I say maximum because, if someone has a child, you meet someone and they come and join the community, you don't want to say, you can't join because we're at the maximum number. So you can't have any new friends. So that's why, maybe start, 30, 70, whatever, and let it grow. But my intention is to make it easy for community members to splinter off and form other communities. Because it's very, very common that a third of the people in a group after 5 or 10 years, whatever, just say, this isn't quite my cup of tea here. But us 20, 30 people, we want to do something similar. It's almost perfect, but we want this instead. We want an orchard, where we want to be on the ocean front rather than the river front. And so we're going to go and do this, and we'll replicate the recipe, and we'll also free up space so that, we're not just getting too big to keep track of each other. That's what I want. Freedom, but not getting too big. Staying small, and so Dunbars Law, the brain cannot really keep track of more than, 150 people. So that's where, we have to do something to stay intimate, to stay connected if we get to more than 175 people. And my plan is to buy another piece of land and create an organic relationship, where you can have a lighter relationship with another group of people that want to do something a little different. I think that's exciting. I think that's part of evolution and creativity. So I want that. So that's what this is. I don't want noise. I can't stand videos like this being ruined because the neighbor starts up their gas-powered blower. And they do. They ruin videos all the time. I don't like it. I don't like intimate moments with a lover being, disrupted, etc., because someone decided to play a ghetto blaster or ride by in a loud motorbike. I don't want that intrusion. I want value placed on the quality of sound. So the community is all electric. No gas blowers. No diesel trucks. It's quiet. Intentionally so, and big enough that silence is defensible. I mean, if you're all electric and everything's quiet and wonderful and, all the toxic smells and stuff are coming over from your next door neighbor, it's meaningless. You still don't have it. This is luxury. 50 acres of beautiful land. Soundscapes that are some of the most beautiful soundscapes in the world, where the only sounds are that of nature and human beings connecting. So I want that, and that's what this is. Another thing that I want is the opportunity to share what I've learned with people that I care about. That's what I'm doing. That's what this is, right? If you have a child or a grandchild that comes to the community and there's something they're curious about and excited about, and I know about that, I want the opportunity to be a grandfather, to be an uncle, without having to port my actual biological family over from the U.S., to be there. A space where there's empathy and care for the next generation. I want that. I want there to be life. And, having a group of learning, growing children that have a mentorship relationship with people they want to learn from, that's exciting. It's exciting to share what we've gathered to pass it on to another generation. I want that. And while that is fuzzy, meaning, I cannot dictate who comes to the community, but I'm excited, that at least 7 children and adolescents, form that group, and that we set up an educational and an experiential and a vocational infrastructure where those kids have the time of their lives learning meaningful things from great people. I want that. That's what this is. Now, I also want to eat organic food. I want to enjoy hanging out in the garden with people. I want to grow some food. I don't want to be bound and tied down all the time, like I have to grow everything all the time. I can't go on a trip or my tomatoes die. So there's enough backup. There's enough support for that. But the healthiest food you can eat, to my knowledge, is organic food grown in the place that you're eating it. I want that. I want more interesting varieties than I can find in the grocery store. I don't just want the tomato that ships best from Chile. This tomato can go in a shipping container and it'll come out relatively edible in 2 months. I don't want that. I want all kinds of interesting tomatoes and interesting herbs that there wasn't shelf space for, that didn't sell well in a supermarket of health illiterate people, of dietarily illiterate people who never tasted that, so they didn't know they wanted it and didn't buy it. They didn't try it, right? I want a variety of fruits and vegetables so that I appreciate each one more through that variety. Hedonic adaptation means that we start to fall asleep when we do the same thing over and over again. We don't enjoy it because it's the same thing. So I want different people's cooking, not just my own. I love cooking. I love inventing recipes. I'm excited to cook for you. That's exciting. But I want to see what you do with a similar dish. Maybe I don't like it, but then I appreciate mine all the more, right? Hedonic adaptation is interrupted. I want that. So that's what this is. 4 distinct kitchens, so that at any moment, any point, anyone who wants to do their own thing can get up and cook at one of the empty kitchens. But that there's always at least 2 varieties. Maybe Mexican and Chinese one day. Greek and Thai food the next day. That there's a plethora of different styles at any day that's kind of the main meal. That's cooked largely by community members. I mean, sure, we can hire a chef, but I love cooking. It's fun. In 70 people, there's going to be 3 or 4 people like me who love cooking. Well, they can be the main, the main cooks is their contribution to the community. As many people as they want in a rotation, right? So that's the community. But then, you want your own thing. I really want some dolmas right now. I want some baklava, and it's not on the menu. Fine, just cook your own thing, right? It's there. Together, though, you can share your baklava to the dish. I waste about 50% of the food in this house. My wife cooks dishes that I don't like to eat. I cook dishes she doesn't like to eat. We both cook for 3 people and eat for 1 person, and the rest gets thrown away because that's what happens in 2-person homes. I want the food to be eaten, right? And that's what happens when you have large dinners. There's always someone that wants this and wants that, et cetera. And so it doesn't take more time. It might take 3 hours to make this perfect bean soup. But it only takes 3 hours and 20 minutes to make the perfect bean soup for 100 people, right? So you get a tremendous leverage, efficiency around that. I like that. I want efficiency. I don't like having all these things around me. More than $100,000 of things that I use minutes out of the month, hours out of the month. So making things, like media rooms. This is a media room. I come into this room, a whole room, to make these videos. and the lighting is set up for this, and the microphone is set up for this, and the camera, and this is a big TV back here. And I come in here maybe 3-4 hours a week. A whole room for one person, 3-4 hours a week. Wouldn't you like a media room where you could sit down and press start, talk about whatever you wanted? You see, and I can do all kinds of things with this media room. Watch this. Look at that. An X, a circle. There it goes again, right? Now, I spent well over $1,000 to be able to do that. It wouldn't cost a penny more for 100 people to be able to use the same media room. That's intelligence. That's efficiency. That's good ecology. I don't like the fact that nature produced all the chemical and mechanical constituents for this, and it's being underutilized. And you've got important things to say. So do your kids. So I want a media room for the community where anyone can make top-of-the-line media. I want that. I want it for you. And I want to see what your media is. I don't want to watch strangers' media on YouTube. I want to watch your media, what you think is important. I want to learn about you. I want that. So that's what this is. An underground shipping container. Why underground? It's soundproof. I hate having this interrupted by that leaf blower. But I don't want it interrupted by conversation right outdoor, or loud lovemaking by the next couple, right? I want complete silence in this media room, and I don't want anyone else disturbed by, this media room, etc. Sometimes I wake my wife up at 3 a.m. because I'm excited in this room talking, and next room over is the bedroom. I want a complete sound isolated media room. You go in, you reserve the time in an app so that everyone knows you're in there from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. This is your time, and you do whatever you want. Put it on your little disk. You do whatever you want. You upload it, you edit it, you share it. You can create amazing media. That's what this is. So I've designed this perfect system for myself. Here it is for the community, right? That's fun. That's intelligence. This is a $5,000 setup. At 100 people, that's $500,000 being spent on this, rather than $50, just a few hundred apiece for this caliber. And at that rate, you can do more than makes sense to do for just one person. You can have more features, etc. And someone can develop the art of video editing and be the community editor for individuals to do their various projects. That's fun. Higher quality media being shared with the world with focuses on well-being. So that's what this is. I like swimming in fresh, natural, unchlorinated water. 600 feet of riverfront. That is some of the warmest river water I've ever experienced. It's easy to swim in. That's what this is. Some of the most beautiful riverfront I've seen anywhere in the world. That's what this is. Now, I like rounded shapes. We were born in the womb. For many of us, it was the most beautiful time of our existence. Watery, surrounding, connected to the goddess. Warm, temperature-controlled, food on demand. That's living, right? Beautiful womb. Well, domes are not only the most elegant geometric shape. I mean, if you want to conserve energy, Buckminster Fuller did a whole thing with geodesic domes. But moving towards the sphere, it's the most efficient, structurally sound shape. I don't want my home blowing away in a hurricane. I don't want the roof blowing off. I don't want to hear rain pattering on a tin roof. I don't want to hear sound outside my space. I don't want my sounds going out of the space. I want a cost-effective ecological cocoon. And that's what a dome is. Done in aircrete and shotcrete, a dome uses almost no materials and can last forever. It doesn't rot. It doesn't dissolve with termites. I don't want to have to cut down trees just to build the structure of my house and then they rot and cut down more. And I don't want to paint it all the time. I want beautiful shapes. That's what this is. A dome structure for each person, a small one, like the template is 17 feet in diameter. A bed, a micro toilet, little storage loft, possibly a little kitchen space, shelving, but you're doing everything together outside the dome. The hot tubs, the jacuzzis, the ping pong tables, the garden, the zip lines, the trails, the books, the media rooms, the dining spaces, the entertaining spaces, the dancing spaces, the yoga spaces, the meditation spaces, the temples. They're all outside, walking distance through heaven. That's what I want. I don't want to clean a big house. I don't want to spend a lot of time in my personal dome. I want a complete silence, temperature-controlled, beautiful, cost-effective place to sleep or have private conversations. And then I want to be out there. And that's where the money is being spent, out there. But rather than everyone having to spend $5,000 for a media room and everyone having to build a library and everyone having to build a tool shop and everyone having to build a kitchen and everyone having to have a jacuzzi, you've got that same efficiency. $5,000 for one person, $100 for everyone. I want magnificent hot springs. I want a really hot tub, and I want it nestled in. I don't want plastic, and I don't want angular concrete, and I don't want chlorine. I want a very hot tub in organic shapes nestled in the ground looking at the stars. And if that tub is too hot, I want to slide down a little water slide into a cooler tub. I want a warm tub, a pretty hot tub. If that's too hot, I want to go down to a cooler tub. And I want to be able to go into a cold plunge if I'm interested in the Wim Hof method, revitalization through heat and cold. I want that. I want to be able to chat and see people who know me and who I know in those spaces. I want that. I want to be able to swim in warm water. So that's the plan. Solar heated water, the river water, it doesn't produce that much heat. Fresh river water, pumped up, run through the solar heating coils, coming out blistering hot. 104 degrees, 108 degrees. That's hot. It's exciting, and nobody has to go in there. But it gives you that range. And that water flows down, and as it does, it cools into a warm pool and flows down. By the time it's cold, it goes back into the river. Now we're not taking water away. we're irrigating our plants, and it all flows back to the river. It all goes back to nature. And new water is constantly coming in. And so it doesn't have time to grow algae. It's constantly being cleaned naturally. That's what I want. And that's what this is. And again, by keeping it small, by keeping it intimate. You know everyone who's in that water. You don't have to treat it like a public health thing because strangers are not there. That's what this is. That's what I want. I want to learn and grow in interactive activities as a community, as small groups, and also do my own thing. The protocol is to spend 4 hours a day knitting together the community, contributing to the community, volunteering in the community, making a difference in community, doing the chores in the community, getting to know one another, and growing the community. Celebrations, birthdays, news, emotional processes, traumatic healing, growing the vegetables, cooking the food, putting in new zip lines. So that structure, which requires a certain kind of work. And so this is also really big. The basic time paradigm of Medicina is 4 hours a day of personal time to do whatever you want. 4 hours a day of contributions to the community to benefit the land and others in a whole host of ways. And 4 hours a day to make money for those that are still working. Now, many jobs aren't set up for 4 hours a day of work, but that, in my experience, is my favorite amount of time to work. I don't want to work much more than 4 hours a day, particularly if the background theme is for money, right? I'm doing this because that's what pays the best, or that's my job. I want to work 4 hours a day so that I have time and energy for more important things like personal relationships, cooking, hanging out, volunteering in community, working on my nonprofit. That's what I want to do. So that's what this is. Now, to allow for the fact that some people may be working and their job doesn't allow for just 4 hours a day, I'm creating some infrastructure in online teleconferencing and some training modules around being, for example, a virtual assistant. But there's also roles within the community where you can do 4 hours of work for another community member. So this is about retirement, for example. There will be some people that love caregiving. And so their 4 hours a day is spent caring for someone like myself when I'm old. And their salary, their payment comes from that. And it keeps the economy alive in the community. That money is flowing from one community member to another, but I'm having someone I actually like and know care for me rather than a stranger who's just taking whatever is the temp job that gives them the most per hour. So that's what this is. Roles within the community. And I don't like driving to work. I don't think anyone does. In fact, there's a negative correlation with happiness. The longer your commute, the less happier you are. That's a correlation. So why not have the vast majority of people, the vast majority of the time, working on the land, doing remote work 4 hours a day. As a virtual assistant, I've trained a virtual assistant who's been doing some of the best work in the world 4 hours a day for me as a virtual assistant. And he's able on that 4 hours a day to provide for his whole family, own 2 houses, and he's going to be retiring early at age 35. Virtual assistant work is incredible. Virtual therapy work is incredible. Virtual coaching work is incredible. Hosting events on the land where people come internationally is incredible. Baking food for the community is incredible. There's all kinds, doing dental cleaning for 100 people. There's all kinds of jobs that are available and necessary as specialized expertise within a group of 100 people. And it's more fun to do it with friends. So that's what this is. There's some chaos there. There's some disorder there because, a lot of that is who shows up and wants to do what. But the intention is that there is a way for you to never need to step off the property again and be financially independent once you buy in. Once you've contributed the amount for the infrastructure, et cetera, that you never need to leave the property. That's exciting. And that's what this is. So we're getting near the end of kind of my perfect thing. I do not want to be stuck in a plot of land somewhere. There's regulations all over the place that are preventing people from dying well. So we'll have to see, my ideal is I'd like my body laid 3 feet under the ground, providing fertilizer for plants that I love, dug in a few hours by people that I love, with a ceremony and a celebration and an honoring of some of my gifts in various ways in the community. That's how I want to die. And I want the people who care about me and remember me to be able to go to that garden and look at those flowers blooming and think of me in that context, or receive my gifts in that context. That's what I want. It doesn't cost a penny. It just takes love and 20 square feet in a garden. Now, how close we can get to that and not break some of the draconian laws of, you've been laying there dead for 24 hours, but, got to hire a doctor to register the time of death. And no, you cannot put a human being where they would like to be put. You got to put them here. And so there's some of that. We'll have to work that out. So there's the ideal. And Costa Rica is certainly a place where you can fudge those types of things more than you can in the U.S., but we'll see, right? Maybe we have to allocate land and get a license as a cemetery or whatever. Fine. We'll do the thing that is most enjoyable and costs the least amount of wasted money for our community. Or if you want to go and do that in your family plot or whatever, fine. You're free to do. But that's what I want. I want to be buried. I don't want smoke going up in the atmosphere by being cremated. And I don't want to go in a mahogany box that cuts down a tree. And I don't want to be pumped up with chemicals that are toxic to the ground. And I don't want to spend $10,000 on protocols or $20,000 that I could give to be my legacy in the community, and a temple, with the people remember some of my abilities in that temple that everyone can visit for the next 100 years. That's more interesting to me. So that's what this is. And I want to avoid committees. I've been at the Findhorn community in Scotland. I've grown up in a number of intentional communities and group settings. And 100 people all trying to reach consensus in a circle about whether we should have yogurt on the menu or not is a miserable time. So there's two things that I'm doing around this. The first thing is very little is left to consensus. Now, this is a tremendous gift if the structures being set in place really feel like home to you. Meaning, if you're saying yes, 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 and I will just add that I want a tool shop with amazing tools to build stuff. I want to be able to build my own bookshelf. I want to be able to create a table. I want to be able to paint 10-foot canvases. I want an art shop, and I want a tool shop that is top of the line. It's spacious and big, much bigger than my cramped garage where all my tools have to be jumbled, etc., and put in boxes. I want space for magnificent tools to build whatever I want, together or alone. I want to go build a table, a table up in the shop and find you up there, building a stool, building a ladder, repairing something, and chatting, getting to know you, rather than go alone into the garage and it's cold and fix something and hunt around for the tool. I want that. I want it to be organized and well-maintained, which creates a role for someone in the community. The person who loves shop work the most. It can be a mentor for kids doing shop work, to do real stuff that's useful and needed in the community, so that you don't throw stuff away. I also want a zero-waste community. I don't want to continually be throwing stuff away because I don't have space for it. There's 50 acres. Someone might have a use for it. It goes in the recycling area until somebody figures out something to turn it into. Lower garbage fees, lower ecological damage, free stuff to make stuff with. That's inspiring to the creative mind. I want that. And that's what this is. That's one of the first things that's going in is the large construction shop, so that those magnificent tools are available to help each person modify and or even build, or help me build, the spaces, the domes, so that it's fun and easy. It's so enjoyable with good tools. That's what this is. My wife, Jen, loves doing art, constantly painting, doing clay, doing this, all kinds of projects, dream catchers, etc. So rather than having, she has a whole art room. Film studio, art room. She goes in there a few hours a week. All these different types of paper and all these different types of beads. So much more fun together. You can have so much more variety. You can have basically your mini art store, and you can go and make cool things and bring them into the community spaces. That's another thing. We have so many paintings. Where do you put them? On just one person's house. But when you have community structures, common space, I can make a sculpture and contribute it to a community space. And you get to see my vision, and I get to see you enjoying it. And there's space to create. I want that, and that's what this is. So I also want a place where animals don't just go off and get lost, and kids don't go off and get lost, and strangers don't wander in without protocol, without understanding what they're wandering into. And that's what this is. Having a very basic, minimal wire fence around the entire property that's 6 feet tall. We don't have deer jumping in to eat our vegetables. We don't have dogs getting lost or chasing neighborhood cows. If we have goats, they don't vanish either, or a pony or whatever. So you have a sense of enclosure. And there's someone there to take deliveries. I don't want delivery people wandering in to the hot tubs, etc. Now, in my travels around the world in the US, one of my favorite places is a place called Harbin Hot Springs in Northern California. It's clothing optional, which basically means that 90% of the people are nude. And there's wonderful hot and cold and warm pools, and they feel wonderful and alive on a naked body. There's something medicinal, I think, in accepting who we are. Because in a tropical warm climate, in magnificent settings, alone with friends, what is the basis to hide the body and make a big upset about that, right? I have careful changing rooms and nobody can see this and all this. I don't like the message that life made a mistake, right? That animals don't have that, where I'm ashamed to be who I am. I also enjoy the sensuality and the intimacy that comes from the message that I'm not trying to hide from you. Now, an interesting thing happens because, when you're deprived of all nudity, all normalcy, just how we're born for most of our lives, then there's this big, excitement and eroticism around seeing somebody naked. If you only undress to be sexual, then you see someone naked and it's correlated with sex. But, if you spend a few weeks in a nudist resort, you forget that you're naked. You forget about the body altogether. You get to enjoy, there's a great freedom in being able to swim and go from the shower into the pool, etc., and not have to wash swimwear and add extra laundry, etc. There's a great freedom in flexibility. It's optional. But I want to be at least part of my life in a place where the natural human form is welcome. And, I've looked at cultures throughout history, and different cultures, it's Polynesia, it's normal. A clothing optional environment is normal in a tropical environment in most cultures. Western cultures have brought the shame of the body, which is, of course, a toxin, and, shoulds and righteousness about it's very jumbled, God created you in your image, but you better hide it because God's image is ugly or whatever it is. It's very convoluted. Anyway, I want a space where people can be free. I think the human body is beautiful and healthy, and it actually, I would say that my well-being goes up, and the strong erotic link where, to see a breast or to see a penis or whatever, that's a big deal when it's our normal shape for millions of years, goes away. And there's a more intimate, vulnerable sense of humanity. I like what it brings out. I like the shifts I've experienced in myself. So, given that we're so culturally stigmatized in America, whatever, about, this being about certain, first of all, you're supposed to be normal, and it isn't a norm. It hasn't been a norm, even in Florida, whatever, where it would make a lot of sense. But the first layer is to make sure that it is, you can actually be arrested for walking around naked in most of the Western world, which is astounding that you could actually be imprisoned and traumatized for the freedom of being as you were when you were born. That's not a healthy message. So the first thing is to lift off the legality, that within the community walls, anyone can dress however they want to dress without going to jail. Isn't that a nice freedom to have? Well, I want it, and that's in the bylaws. Now, to the degree that we are programmed by our cult to be ashamed or to feel, that this, is something wrong or whatever, I think it's good to have a partition, to say like, okay, this is specifically for, like maybe the bathing area or this time of day to this time of day. I don't feel that it is bad for healthy children that have not been shamed around their bodies to, be in a clothing optional environment. But I'm not adamant. I can understand for people raised in our culture that would be the thought. So, my structure right now is, from a legal perspective, anyone can dress any way they want on the land. But from a expectation kind of area, I want to have a few areas of the property that it is specifically stated that, you are likely to see nude people or people in various forms of nudity in this area, or at least in this area at this time. And that, I think, eating with some degree of clothing on is generally considered more sanitary, and but I'm not, if someone shows up in a towel or a robe at the restaurant, I think it is far more healthy to be allowing of those situations than it is to, have enforcers come around and, with political correct dogmas that have very little basis in science. So that's what this is. The art, being able to create things, the wood shop being able to create things. I also want games. I have a chess game, and I have a Monopoly game, and I have a ping pong table and a Scrabble board. But there's lots of other games. I have a pool table, and it takes up a lot of space, right? 2 people, 3,000 square feet. It's a little bit crazy. And of course, I can only play one game at a time. And a lot of the time, I don't have a lot of people to play with, right? So I want a game space in 2 ways. One, in the dining room, etc., I want game shelves where anyone can pull out, whatever games they would like. But I also want, game spaces for ping pong and pool and whatever it is we want to play, mini golf, right? And that'll be largely led by passion. We'll start with a basic thing, and then when someone says, "I really want to do this," and 3 or 4 people raise the hand, fine, we get that game and we make a space for it. And again, it's 1/10 the cost, being able to share all that, but more variety and more people to play with. That's what I want. I want to be able to watch movies. I want to be able to take educational courses. So having a large space where, 100 people can attend a speech or a presentation. I also want good recording setups for that, so that people who miss that can access the talks later. And I want an app that stores large volumes of personal information voluntarily shared by community members. So that if I forget whether you have gluten allergies or not, I can tap on your profile as a community member and say, dietary preferences, okay, they can't have macadamia nuts. I see, they have an allergy to macadamia, which I'm making your birthday dinner. I want to know that, and I don't want to have to call you up. Do you have any allergy? I want to just look there and say, okay, I've got that. If I want to have a conversation with you, I want to tap and say, oh, topics you love to talk about, topics you really want to avoid. Okay, good. So I want an app going back to that structure around decision-making process. I do not want to be in 100-person meetings discussing whether or not flip-flops are allowed in the dining room or blah, blah, blah. And so you need a voting protocol. So the first thing that is kind of my gift is to bring 30 years of community living experience, to bring 30 years of contracting experience. So having lived in communities and noticing what worked and what didn't work, having lived in different cultures and different countries and noticing what seemed to bring the most happiness to the most people, having eaten and cooked food around the world, having designed and installed landscapes and homes and done land development for a combined total of 30 years. There's a lot of that stuff that I know the statistics of, meaning I know that 70% of the people prefer this rather than this. I know that 80% of the time this works better than this. I know that this is 300% more cost effective than this. I know that this is 1,000% higher maintenance than this better option over here. I know that this is the best soil to produce food. I know that this is a better irrigation system than this. I know that this amount of space is needed to turn around a parking space. I know that this is an ugly view and this is a plant that can screen that ugly view. I know that this is how this is taught because I've taught hundreds of employees how to do various portions of their job. So there's a lot of things that I'm very, very clear on that I want for myself based on all of that data. And I'm putting that a lot of that is in this video, but the fine print is in an app structure. And when unanticipated things come up, I want a clear structure. Like these types of things require a 90% majority because they affect everyone in a meaningful way, and someone might not have been expecting that. These types of things just need, anyone can do this as long as it doesn't affect other people. Just do it. Say, I'm doing this, and if it doesn't create a loud noise for other people, if it doesn't block the driveway, if it doesn't do this, just do it. And if anyone has an issue with it, that can be addressed the next time. Other things, what movie we put in the main movie theater. I nominate this one. Well, there's enough slots that you just schedule that movie in there, and the people that like that one go to that one, and the people that like the other one, the next day they go to that one, right? So the majority can win for any given time, or you just start another movie time. Like, we're not getting our movie slot for the main movie showing. Okay, we'll do a matinee, and all of us that want to watch our movie will go and do it at 3 p.m., right? So the focus is on flow and win-win and space for everything. Let's have a space for loud parties and noise that is soundproof. How do you do it? Shipping containers underground, 9 feet tall, surrounded in concrete. Party all night. 6 a.m., go at it. Loud as you want. But let's also have complete silent places where nobody makes a sound and you can be in peace and reflect and do Buddhist meditation. I want range. I want variety. And I want an app decision-making process where someone can put something to a vote and anyone can see that and just click yes and no, and the decision is made as opposed to endless meetings about it. I also do want meetings, times to get together and hear things that are working and not working. But I want those to mostly be about coming together times. That the other things that there's a protocol. And so The app is one of the most esoteric, the most important, the most exciting things. It's also the thing that makes the community transcendent. Because as we succeed and grow over time, learning from mistakes, following dead ends and turning around and doing that, as we figure that out and put it as metadata in an app structure that helps other people form community, that helps our community members migrate over to another piece of land and do something they like even better. That's exciting. That makes all that knowledge permanent. Metadata means your name, your particular situation is not shared. But 78% of our community likes this. That is shared. And you were, of course, part of that voting, right? So it's very useful for people trying to learn from what we're doing to know that 78% of our people liked this and 90% of our people didn't like this, because that can be good information for them to make better decisions as well. I want everyone to learn. I want as many people on the planet to benefit from what we're doing as possible, and the technology is metadata that completely separates the data points from the individuals. And everyone has control of their data. Right now with Facebook, with various things, you don't have control of your own data. I want an app where everyone controls who sees what, who knows what, where you are completely controlling your data, and that there's a very encrypted algorithm between that and the metadata that becomes useful for everyone in the community to know. You may or may not want to, on a given day, share to everyone in the community that you're feeling depressed. But it is important for the community to know that 12% of our members are feeling depressed today. Maybe we want to respond and have a party. Maybe we want to listen to grief. Maybe we want to, have a documentary on healing depression. Maybe we want to do some exercise together and hold a powwow, have a bonfire, etc. And so we learn what works. But seeing each other through the lens of metadata is something that has never been done before in the history of humanity, to actually be seen moment to moment. So I'm very excited about that. I also want people that want an effort, right? I mean, if you've listened to all this and you've followed along and you're still interested, and you've got an intelligent mind, you've got attention, you've got patience, you've got discipline. I mean, everyone wants paradise without doing any work and not paying any money and not thinking any and not doing anything different, not taking risks. We'd all have it if that was the case. But I want people who want to work, who understand that something grand, that something beautiful like this is worth fighting for, is worth loving, is worth investing in, is worth learning skills to be able to do well. Like, that's exciting, to join a group where you have to learn cool skills to contribute meaningful substance to the success of a worthy goal, so that you die more than you would have. You become more, and you contribute more. That's exciting. That's worth living for. That's worth dying for. So this is my dream. How about you?